Hey guys, iKailaKai here, and welcome to the top 4 match of the Hokkaido Championship, the first OP12 tournament. This matchup is going to be Red Zoro against Blue Purple Luffy. Disclaimer, I do not own this content, it is owned by Bandai. Make sure to check out the official live stream for the official coverage, and this is just going to be me re-commentating over the meta and talking about kind of my experience as a player playing through the meta live. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. I streamed this first on my YouTube channel, so thank you if you watched that. Let's get into the video. Blue Purple Luffy at 2, 1 green Zoro, so it went down from 3 to 1, which is the one that we saw on stream, and the 1 red Zoro is still alive. While this game starts, I'll just answer some questions in chat. Do I agree with the sentiment that Buggy is going to be one of the best, if not the best deck in the post-ST format? I think he's good. I don't know if he's going to be the best, but that's just kind of a lack of testing on my part. One of my friends is a very big believer in Buggy, and he thinks that it's going to be tier 1 deck dethroning Blue Purple Luffy, and while I think that he's probably very good, it doesn't, like, the thing is 10 cost Buggy, very, very powerful into 1 target, but Blue Purple Luffy being able to play 2 targets onto the board might still be enough for Blue Purple Luffy to win. I think that just the difference is that Blue Purple Luffy probably needs to take a more aggressive plan into Buggy, because if he gives Buggy enough time, eventually Buggy's going to end up winning out the late game, which is very unique for a deck to actually be able to out-sustain Blue Purple Luffy. But if Blue Purple Luffy can manage to do something like 9-cost Sanji into 9-cost Luffy and just keep hitting the leader, Buggy doesn't necessarily have that many defensive tools aside from the new blockers that he has, and perhaps it's going to be enough for Buggy to, or for Blue Purple Luffy to end up winning that matchup. But the thing is that the 8-cost Crocodile and Mihawk is very good into things like Lucci, and the promo Buggy is very good into things like Betty as well as Zoro. And the one issue with that is that if Buggy ends up killing Bella Betty as a deck, which I don't know if it will, but Bella Betty's gained another very bad matchup, then it makes Blue Purple Luffy even stronger. So I do think that Buggy will be good, but it's really going to have to end up seeing how the meta kind of settles. We are seeing the red Zoro, which is very nice, and this is going to be answering a lot of people's questions on which deck is better. Red Zoro versus Blue Purple Luffy. I think it's Blue Purple Luffy favored, but it's going to largely come down to what the Blue Purple Luffy can draw. Didn't get to see who's going first, but this is not the hand that you want to see. Gravity Blade is nice, but this is a really weird hand. And the Zoro side had the 3-cost Chopper in his starting hand, so at the very least he's going to have a decent start. He also has some aggressive cards in Kid and Killer, which with your leader effect is just a 4-cost 8,000 rush card, which is very nice too. NL counters Green Zoro, yes, which is why I think that the deck is better than people give it credit for. Koala should be good, but I think that we haven't found the right deck list for her, because her Revolutionary Army card pool is a bit awkward right now, but we'll talk about that in the tier list. But I think that she should be good maybe with the right deck list, but right now she hasn't really found a footing because she loses to these very aggressive decks like Green Zoro and Red Rayleigh. Okay, starting the game. Okay, Red Zoro went first, which means that he gets to play this Chopper on 3. By playing the Chopper on 3 and not 4, it puts the curve a bit more awkward for Blue Purple Luffy. Blue Purple Luffy wants to go first in this matchup, because if the Zoro ends up playing the... Oh, he missed his effect! Oh, that's tragic. But Zoro plays this 3-cost Chopper on 3 or 4, but if he plays it on 3, Blue Purple Luffy can't use God Thread to immediately get rid of it. Which means that Chopper should get 2 activations of his effect, but he ended up missing it on his first activation, it seems. So unfortunately, it still means he's only going to be able to use it once before Blue Purple Luffy should optimally be able to get rid of it with things like God Thread. If the Red Zoro player is going first and plays Chopper on 4, he'll only get 1 activation before Luffy can God Thread it. Either way, Blue Purple Luffy does not have God Thread in his hand, so it doesn't end up mattering in this situation. But, ooh, that's a new card. What does that do? I think it's just a 2k, but yeah, it's just a 2k animal. I haven't seen people running that. I wonder if that deck actually needs that many targets. Very unfortunate slow start for Red Zoro, which might give Blue Purple enough time, despite not having the cards that he necessarily wants. The one thing is Zoro playing the second Chopper now can start to go a bit out of control. My god, his targets are not really what you want to see, I think. He's going to end up bottoming the last 2 3-cost Choppers in his deck, which means he's probably not going to see them anymore because this deck doesn't really loop. This is the top 4 match, yes. But this Chopper is still nice. This Chopper being able to play one of the characters from his hand. Don't see what's in his hand, but he should be able to play Hiking Bear? Yeah, okay. he plays Hiking Bear, then he can spread out his board enough to get to the point where maybe the Gravity Blade doesn't hurt too much. He probably just plays Gravity Blade on this turn, but he could also, for example, go for Nami and then attach Dong and hit into the chopper to try to regain resources, negate an attack for one turn. Oh, but he has two. He has two Gravity Blades now, so he probably definitely runs or uses the Gravity Blade on this turn because he doesn't want those stuck in his hand. Yeah, you go 6 into this chopper because it's harder to defend. He's probably not going to defend this, but he uses the event to just try to spread out his board anyways. Probably just going to replace the Karagami Butai on the board because 3k, even with your lead effect 4k, is very steep to honestly hit into a 6k leader. What are his targets? Wait, what just happened? Oh, he's replacing this. That makes sense. Right, okay, so effectively he kind of negated the attack. That makes sense. I didn't really think of that plan. That's fun. But still, Gravity Blade, he has 2 in his hand, which is really sucks because Blue Purple Luffy generally only plays 2 in total. Was able to draw both of them naturally. Makes it so that now Red Zoro, we know that he doesn't have any more 3-cost choppers in his deck because he bottomed 2 through one of his searches, and he just played 2 of them, which means that Red Zoro just has to play with what he has now. Yes, he has things like Kid Killer in his hand to be able to have this aggressive angle, but Blue Purple Luffy still has a lot of cards in his hand as well as 2 life, and Zoro's board not really being as strong as he wants to be due to his 3-cost choppers not being able to search the targets that they really want to find, giving a bit of a slow start. Makes so that these 6k chip attacks, although annoying, might not necessarily be enough to actually topple over Blue Purple Luffy. We'll still have to see because Blue Purple Luffy has not found something like 9 Mom, which is kind of the card that he wants to play next turn. But we'll see what he ends up doing here with the rest of his Dong. He could just play the Kid Killer, go for an aggressive angle, and try to break through the opponent's board, but I worry that if he plays Kid Killer here, he doesn't have anything to do next turn aside from just play Nami and pray that he draws something good. So, okay, yeah, so he hits with the Karagamo Butai, which means that now on this turn he can just play the Namis that he has in his hand to look for some decent things to play next turn. Maybe if he gets like a Rush Zoro, he might be able to find enough damage. Luffy still in a decent spot. But importantly, because he played Gravity Blade last turn and did not manage to ramp, he won't have his leader effect next turn, meaning that he has a very low chance of finding 9 Mom. This likely means that he's going to end up just playing Gravity Blade and hitting into another character, which will likely get rid of 3 of the characters on board. But with 4 cards in his hand, if he doesn't manage to get rid of a lot of Zoro's board, he still is in this game because he was able to get a decent number of characters on the board. So it's going to come down to... Up. Send a Rush Zoro. Okay. I was like, do you really send Rush Zoro to the bottom? But it's because he had another Rush Zoro in his hand. Oh, okay, he has some decent aggressive cards now, even if the board gets cleared. Oh, wait, this is really important. I was going to say that because he has 9 Dong, if he plays Gravity Blade here to get rid of 2 things, for example, like that, his board's really not that strong right now. He doesn't have anything worth leaving Dong up for because you don't want to use Gum Gum Giant this early. But with this Gear Second in hand, it's really, really important because when the Red Zoro ends up playing this Kid Killer to board and hitting for 8,000 into leader, that 8,000 is defended with just 1 Gear Second. So he leaves up the Dong. He leaves up 2 just to be safe, I guess. But I think he really only needs to leave up 1. Unless like he was able to clear out the board, so it doesn't really matter if he ended up leaving that 1 Dong up or not. But now Zoro needs to try to find a way to break through, but the active Dong and importantly the Gear Second is making it very difficult for Zoro to do so. How much Dong does he have? Do he have 7 Dong after this? Does he have... Oh, he has 8. Oh, he went first, right, yeah. He went first, so he has 8 Dong left. I wonder if you just kind of bully him a little bit with these Nami hits and hold on to things like Kid Killer. But you can't hit with Nami with both Namis and still play Rush Zoro. You don't have enough Dong for that. So maybe he could do just 2 relatively large attacks, but that doesn't really feel great. Okay. He is hitting with Nami at 6k. which means with the 5 dong left, what is he going to end up doing? This might be okay, though. Oh, he took it. So perhaps now what Zoro can do is play the Kid Killer, attach the 1 extra dong, and hit for 9,000, and it'll make it so that the Blue Purple Elite player is forced to use Gear Second plus 1k because he doesn't want to use Gungam Giant. But he's going for the Rush Zoro instead. I think this is... He's gonna do it the last 2 dong. Oh, just play Anji, set up an attacker. That might be better, yeah. I was trying to think of ways that you can just break through, but these small attacks play around things like Gear Second much better. You just use the activate main now because you don't really care too much about your life, because Blue Purple, if he's never going to go for your life in this situation, he's always going to go for your board. So this is effectively just going to draw you cards. Blue Purple Luffy now finally being able to use his leader effect. Does he see 9 Mom? He doesn't. 9 Mom would probably flip the board stay right now. But he hasn't seen God Thread, though he did get to see Gravity Blade, which is nice, but he didn't see 9 Mom, and these are the 2 most important cards of this matchup. And if he doesn't draw those, then this matchup can become very, very difficult for Blue Purple Luffy. I think what he might have to do here, he probably picks up the Nami and sends the rest to the bottom, and just kind of hopes that with the counter in his hand and the cards that he hopefully draws from his leader effect as well as Gungam Giant, that he might be able to survive long enough to eventually get 9 Mom in, hopefully, the next search. He sends the cards to the bottom. He's probably just going to attach enough dong onto Luffy to hit into the Zoro and guarantee killing it, but he can't do anything about this Sanji, which is going to for sure hit him for at least 8,000 next turn. He starts with the Nami because if he ends up getting another counter event, he'll know how much dong to leave up for the next turn. Saw 1, he saw 2 events. Doesn't need the God Thread. But this is a lot more than he really wants to see right now. What he really wants right now are just 1Ks and 2Ks, because the second that he the Zoro ends up hitting for 6k and you counter with anything that's not a 1k or a 2k, then Zoro just needs to keep hitting at 6k and then the game's most likely over. This looks like Zoro's probably going to... Red Zoro, because now there's 2 Zoros. Red Zoro's probably going to end up winning this game because Blue Purple he just could not find his cards to save his life. He did see a lot of 9 Sanjis, which would have been great in the mirror, but unfortunately not the time to see those cards. Yeah, he's just kind of forced to send all of the rest of his cards to the bottom, but now he has to make a decision of which cards, or how much dong he wants to leave up. I think that you only leave up 2 dong, or 3 dong max, because if you only attach 1 dong and hit for 7k, Zoro's just going to easily counter out of that, even if it takes him like multiple cards. By hitting with it with 8k, oh, did he do? Yeah, okay. I thought he was going to attach 3 dong for a second. Hitting with 8k, with 5 hand for Zoro, because it's an aggressive deck that doesn't necessarily pride itself in being able to defend its board very well, there's a good chance that it could go through. Fortunately, it seems like the Zoro player is going to be able to counter out of this with this 2-on-1. Yeah, I don't recognize the cards too well. They all look very similar in Zoro. Meaning that Zoro gets the turn back. And now, Zoro, this entire game, he's been very consistent. He's just been hitting at 6k the whole time, trying to whittle down Blue Purple Luffy's defenses. And because Blue Purple Luffy wasn't able to find his cards, he's finally going to be rewarded here. The second that this first 6k attack goes through, he's going to have to cut Gum Giant, and the Red Zoro player is going to be very, very happy about that. We might see another situation like the last game, where they're forced to play 2 Gum Giants on the same turn, and go down to a point where they can't use their leader effect, which just makes the game worse and worse. Ideally, Blue Purple Luffy really wants to avoid that from happening, so if the first Gundam Giant can draw him 2 1Ks or 2 2Ks, just cards that don't have, that aren't events or aren't counterless, then he might still have a chance, but Zoro in a very good spot to still win this game. We'll see how he ends up splitting up his attacks. I don't think you necessarily need to do anything more than 6k as a start, but he's going to start with 8k. The issue with this 8k attack, I believe this is 8k, right? Zoro math's always a bit confusing. But the issue with hitting at these higher thresholds is that Luffy can use Gum Giant and still not reveal that he doesn't have any cards with pure 1k or 2k counter, so it doesn't actually give Zoro that much information. He uses the Gear Second, though. He uses the Gear Second. Because, look, you defend it so you hit a lower threshold. And now, Blue Purple Luffy's forced to use Gum Giant. So if he used Gum Giant on this attack, and then drew into some cards here, then if he was able to draw a 1k from here, he could defend this attack too for just 1k, and still... Oh, fuck. Fuck. Oh my god, never mind. Ideally, if he draws 1k from this, then he could still conceal the counter issue that he has in his hand, but nah. Now he's forced to use a second Gum Gum Giant. This is just miserable. There was no top 16 match. This was just a short tournament for some reason. I don't know how many players there are. Maybe it's only like 300 or 400, but if there's a really small amount of players at the tournament, because this is Hokkaido, very north of Japan, not many players are around there, then top cut ends up being a bit smaller. He's forced to use Giant here, get rid of the 9-mom, which means, I mean, regardless of if he can survive this turn, he saw this too late. Regardless if he can survive this turn, he doesn't survive the next turn. And yeah, that's game. That was just really, really rough for Blue Purple Luffy, I think. But very well played by Zoro. He was able to, I think towards the end, maybe be able, he could have spread out his dong a little bit better to kind of get more information. But Blue Purple Luffy, it was not his day. He did make it to top cut at least, and he made it to top 4, so you can't discredit that, I guess, but just really, really miserable. I've had my fair share of times where I've drawn into 2 counterless cards, but this is painful. You're looking for 9-mom the entire game, and it's your next 2 cards. You draw them both off of Gum Gum Giant. That's terrible.